Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. Hundreds of jobs are on the line as Otago University looks to address a gaping $60 million hole in its annual budget. The university says salary savings will be a major part of dealing with the deficit, blaming falling student numbers for the problem.
A dark day for Otago University as the institution confirms big changes ahead amid a financial crisis. Staff were told yesterday the university was $60 million in the red and is considering hundreds of job losses across both academic and administration staff. Acting Vice-Chancellor Professor Helen Nicholson says the tough financial situation has been signalled for a number of years, but urgently needs addressing for the university's future.
As well as the drop in enrolments, the environment has changed significantly in our costs, inflation.
She says government funding increases haven't kept pace with inflation, but admitted a fall in enrolments is at the heart of the issue. Fewer high school students are gaining university entrance through NCEA. The university is also blaming more entry-level job opportunities and young people choosing to move overseas.
So we've decided to be transparent with our staff yesterday about our untenable situation, and the hard work really starts now.
Applications for voluntary redundancies open on Monday, with more redundancies to follow. The university is also considering the possibility of asset sales.
We have a plan and we will work with our kāmahi, our employees through these difficult months, and we know it's going to be difficult over the next few months. We have very good people, and it's not a situation that I ever wanted to be in.
Dunedin Mayor Jules Raddick says the city will do what it can to support those affected, but accepts it's important the university sets itself up for success into the future. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Southland saga has come to an end with the completion of a month-long salvation operation in Riverton. A sunken boat has been lifted from the coastal harbour in a complex challenge that was an exciting spectacle for locals.
Ascending to the nautical heavens as the salvage of former fishing boat, the Leanne, comes to a close. The vessel spent a month slumped in mud flats near Riverton. On Monday, she was finally lifted onto dry land, albeit days later than originally planned. The salvage team say a strong tidal current and shallow depth of the vessel made it one of the most challenging operations they've done.
It's been one of the most trying salvages we've been involved with because of the current and the depth of the vessel. So yeah, it's been good, really good. Good outcome.
To make the 14-metre vessel light enough to lift, the team had to dismantle the mast, cabin and engine from the boat, stripping an estimated 15 tonnes from the sunken vessel. The timeline of the salvage operation was extended multiple times, eventually taking almost a week to pull off.
Well, it's been fairly frustrating, to be honest. A very complex operation, but we're very pleased that finally we've got the Leanne out of the water after all this, over a month now.
The boat suffered severe damage in March after tearing free from its mooring in a powerful storm and hitting the nearby bridge. That same Southland weather returning to have the final say. But with the boat out of the water, the feeling was one of gratitude and relief.
The salvage guys, done a sterling job in the conditions that we got. Hands, take my hat off to them. Yeah, everybody's done a really good job. Crane operators to truck drivers, it's gone. Yahoo!
He says the incidents made local boaties more cautious with their mooring lines. The Leanne will now be embarking on her final voyage to an Otago wrecking yard. In Riverton, the South Today.
After years of construction work, a new Beaumont Bridge looks to be just around the corner. A full-length bridge structure is now in place after two sections were connected together.
A new bridge over the Clutha River on a vital tourist and business route in Otago. The Beaumont Bridge has been layered in scaffolding for more than a decade, but a new two-lane bridge is almost ready to replace the old structure built in the late 1800s. Contractors HEB Construction have been working on the new bridge since 2021, and on Thursday they poured the last of the concrete, creating a continuous surface from one side to the other.
Oh yeah, this is a major milestone, so yeah, you see the guys are absolutely buzzing out there. We'll be celebrating after this one, so it's really good.
Apart from some minor COVID-19 delays, he believes the $25 million project has run pretty smoothly. But while there's now a structure in place, the bridge isn't yet ready to be opened up to traffic.
Still going to be in a state of construction because we've works then to do to sort of tie it into the old bridge, so there's still quite a bit beyond putting traffic onto the new bridge.
The old bridge will eventually be linked as an underpass to give cyclists of the Clutha Gold Trail access to the township. The completed bridge is expected to be open to traffic by late July, although construction work will continue until the end of the year. In Beaumont, the South Today.
A colourful dress remembering and honouring fallen soldiers from Gallipoli has found a new home in Invercargill. The Anzac Angel Poppy dress was originally created for a wearable art show, but is now on display beside cars and transport memorabilia.
A delicate sea of red. This might look like an ordinary collection of Anzac poppies, but this piece has been created as a wearable memorial to the Kiwi soldiers killed at Gallipoli. This dress was made in 2015 for the centenary of the Gallipoli landings. It has 2,779 poppies hand-stitched into the train, one for every New Zealand soldier who died in the battle. It's the latest addition to the Bill Richardson Transport World Museum, joining the displays this week ahead of Anzac Day.
We are really excited to have this piece on display here at the museum. It joins an already quite extensive collection of wearable art on display.
The dress, titled Anzac Angel, was created by Queenstown designer Charlotte Graff and took about 3 months to create. It was first displayed at the Wanaka Wearable Art Show and remained in the Warbirds and Wheels Museum until it closed last year. Now, thanks to the help of the RSA, the dress has found a new home in Invercargill.
I think it's a really nice touch. Obviously, the legacy of the Anzacs is a really enduring one, and we feel really privileged that it now calls Bill Richardson Transport World home.
Tomorrow marks the 108th anniversary of the Gallipoli landing. Artist Charlotte Graff says she's glad to have the dress back on display and hopes the artwork will continue to allow people to reflect on the sacrifices made at Gallipoli. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Tens of thousands of people gathered across the country early Tuesday morning to remember those who served for our country. And despite the cooler temperatures, Anzac services saw an increase in numbers across many regions, with one district service returning after more than half a century.
The booms of cannons echoing through the streets of Dunedin, commemorating the sacrifice of soldiers for the region. This year's Anzac service saw thousands of people standing shoulder to shoulder in Queen's Garden without restrictions for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic. The lives of fallen soldiers and service personnel were also remembered in Mosgiel, where families of those who sacrificed their lives commemorated their loved ones.
Take the time to stop and read the names on the war memorials. Think about what they endured, not only by the people whose names you read, but also their families and their comrades who survived the war.
A special service was held later in the morning at the Monticello Veterans Home, giving residents there the opportunity to pay their respects and remember. Further south in Balclutha saw schoolboys reflecting on how lucky they are to be born in this time, while in Gore, a crowd of young and old members gathered in larger numbers than previous years. The small farming locality of Menzies Ferry brought back its Anzac service after 70 years' absence to mark the centennial of their war memorial.
1923, and at that day there was 500 people here to commemorate that.
Many organisers were pleased with the turnouts at services across the regions, with Gore's RSA president Neil Bone particularly happy to see the interest shown by the younger generation. Across the South Today.
And there were Anzac services and events held in towns right across Otago and Southland. Later in the Bulletin, we'll take a look at how residents in central Otago marked the day. Well, Whaiakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. An Otago professor is working on technology that could print out body tissue, and vibrant colours and crowds in Arrowtown as the mining village celebrates its autumn festival. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Imagine if you could print out body tissue whenever you needed it. That's exactly what one Otago professor is working on and says the technology could be here sooner than you think.
A high-tech machine working on a high-tech project. Otago University Associate Professor J.D. Cabral has been overseeing the machine, which can create 3D printed nipple areola complexes for breast cancer patients. The aim of the new research work is to help reconstruct breast tissue that has been lost in mastectomy patients, an issue the team says is not currently being addressed. Otago is working in collaboration with researchers from the University of Maryland, using some very fancy lab equipment with unlimited capabilities.
I have a 3D bioprinter, so that allows me to encapsulate cells or create cell-friendly scaffolds to basically recreate any tissue microarchitecture that I'm interested in.
Cabral specialises in creating vasculature for the thick tissue of the nipple, which acts as a plumbing system for oxygen and nutrients. She says thick tissue is harder to create than thinner tissue, adding to the challenge.
It's that combination of biology, chemistry, material science, engineering, and medicine. So it's a really exciting field. I'm never bored.
She's hopeful the research will lead to further developments in 3D printing, which could eventually see vital organs created.
Quite exciting. It's cutting-edge research happening right here in little old Dunedin.
Cabral is looking forward to visiting collaborators at the University of Maryland in June, where she'll tour their laboratories and see the latest technologies. In Dunedin, the South Today.
More than 10,000 people descended on the streets of Arrowtown for its autumn festival last weekend, celebrating the colours of the new season.
Basking in the golden leaves as the colourful events continue at the Arrowtown Autumn Festival. Tens of thousands of residents and visitors joined in the festivities over the weekend in the historic gold mining town. Organisers tried to cater for everyone with a wide range of events on offer, ranging from the locally run market day through to a vintage car show and an open day with the town's fire brigade. There was also plenty of entertainment, including acrobatics by the Circus Space Kids, and 3 music stages giving local artists a chance to showcase their talents.
Yeah, so today we've got the market day, which is awesome. There's loads of stalls, craft, food, drink, etc. And then we also have the parade, which is a bit of a competition. So there's an award for the best community float.
All the money raised from the annual event goes back into the community. Some will be used to improve next year's festival, while a portion will go towards providing scholarships for final year Wakatipu High School students.
And all the money that we collect goes back to the festival, and we also donate a couple of scholarships to Wakatipu High School for year 13 students that are going out into the world.
Saturday is always the biggest day of the week-long festival, with the street parade going through the town. Participants this year include vintage cars and tractors, along with the 2-man circus crew Mullet Man and Mim. The Autumn Festival continues until Tuesday, finishing up with an RSA service of remembrance as a part of the Anzac Day activities. In Arrowtown, the South Today.
Top ploughers from across the country were digging up paddocks in South Otago, demonstrating their skills at the National Plowing Championships recently.
Competitors digging deep for national glory as the sunny weather turned on across the 2-day competition in Milton. There was a good turnout for the 68th New Zealand National Plowing Championships, with the crowd treated to a showcase of tractors, Clydesdale horse-drawn plows and modified tractors.
There's 35 plots being ploughed, so 30 tractor ploughmen and 5 horse teams, and the horse teams are teams of 2. So there's 40 people competing out there, yeah.
Rural competitors had a range of classes to test their skills in, including a contemporary section for young entrants to take part in. 13-year-old Jake Watt from Romehapa had a crack at ploughing in the competition, using his grandfather's 1966 International tractor, who has been teaching him the ways of ploughing.
It's so good to see the young fellas, eh? Yeah. You know, there's a couple of them out there, you know, in their early teens, and they're doing an awesome job. And you know, well, they've got probably some of the better ploughmen you'll ever find anywhere helping them out. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool.
Mark Dillon from Riversdale won the Silver Plough Conventional Trophy, while Timaru's Bob Mertens claimed the reversible category. Both men will represent New Zealand next year at the 69th World Plowing Championships in Estonia. In Milton, the South Today.
Southern petrol heads were treated to a big day out last weekend as the HPTO Show and Shine Festival revved up a storm in Invercargill.
Flaming hot cars bringing the heat down south. The third HPTO Show and Shine Festival roared into gear over the weekend, showcasing a variety of vehicles at Invercargill's Teretonga Park Raceway. The festival featured a car show, drifting demonstrations and races, with event director Troyden Findlay pleased with the turnout.
So this is special for me because it's something I've been working on for a long time, and to have it happen here today, it's great to see it all come together.
The show attracted car enthusiasts of all ages. The event's getting bigger each year, with more than 160 vehicles on display over the weekend. Findlay says the Show and Shine Festival was all about celebrating that passion for cars in Southland.
Invercargill is very petrol head friendly. We love it down here. There's obviously a lot of events that happen here, and we want to make this event big for everyone.
And while he's happy his hard work is being appreciated, Findlay's looking forward to having a break after months spent organising the event.
I'm excited, anxious, nervous, stressed, all of the above, but once the weekend's finished, I'll be able to sit down and relax.
He was pleased to see the passion for automobiles being passed on through generations. Saturday was a chance for crowds to enjoy some family entertainment, with cars hitting the track on Sunday for a cruise around the raceway. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Increased interest in Anzac history in recent years has encouraged Christchurch libraries to offer a range of events and services for residents. One group in New Brighton has been fighting for more than 2 decades to keep the memories alive of their local boys who went off to war.
We shall remember them. That's the call from a dedicated group of volunteers at the New Brighton and District Historical Society and Museum. They're working to try and preserve the history of Christchurch's east side. And as part of Anzac Day commemorations, the group have compiled the New Brighton Boys, a collection of photos and stories from local soldiers who went off to war. The group of mainly retirees has embarked on an ambitious modern quest to digitise a large collection of exhibits.
We've got a lot of stuff, all of these things. If the place burnt down, we're finished. That's it. We can't start again. So we're trying to get it all onto the website.
Butterfield believes it's important to keep history alive. The team are looking for funding to employ the services of a part-time curator who can help with the huge job of documenting all their historical records.
People that are doing their family trees suddenly realise that we have got so many resources for them that they can come in here and spend hours and hours. We've got filing cabinets full of research stuff and all the big rotor scans. So much you'd never get through it. I've never got through it yet.
Volunteers at the Free Museum say it survives on funding and donations, but offers anyone interested the chance to research and reconnect with their own family history. In Christchurch, the South Today.
Whaiakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. Our regional Anzac Day coverage continues as we head across to central Otago, and it was a special Anzac Day for one pipe band member as he celebrates a major milestone. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Well, as we saw earlier in the Bulletin, Tuesday was a day of remembrance, which also saw thousands of people attending services in communities right across central Otago.
Trumpets and bugles solemnly playing the last post before dawn across the country on Anzac morning. Thousands of people paid their respects to fallen soldiers on Anzac Day at dawn services around central Otago. The public holiday originally honoured those who served in the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps and in the Gallipoli campaign. It now recognises all New Zealanders killed in war, along with returned and serving servicemen and women. Crowds including young children through to veterans braved the cool weather to attend the commemorative services, many acknowledging family members who served. 3 shots from a 25-pounder field gun rang out through Alexandra, while the wreath-laying service in Clyde drew a crowd of around 500 people. Those leading remembrance services urged attendees to remember the reasons behind Anzac Day and to be grateful for what we have more than 100 years later.
We give thanks for this day. for the peace and security that we enjoy.
Anzac commemorations were held in a number of Otago towns, including Roxburgh, Alexandra, Clyde, Cromwell, Wanaka and Lake Hawea, keeping the memory of the soldiers' sacrifice alive. Across the South today.
Queenstown's dawn service was held at the memorial gates on the lakefront. Around 1,500 people turned out for the ceremony, with organisers impressed with the number of younger people.
Lest we forget, as the Wakatipu Basin comes together in remembrance of the country's Anzac Day veterans. Thousands of people, young and old, gathered this morning at the Queenstown and Arrowtown War Memorials, getting up at the crack of dawn to mark the 108th year since the start of World War I. Arrowtown RSA President Rosemary Chalmers led the service in the historic mining town, while Phil Wilson led the commemorations in Queenstown. As veterans, active soldiers, emergency service personnel and families placed wreaths to remember those who have fallen.
We who are gathered here think of those who went out for us to battle, but did not return. We feel them still near us in spirit.
Queenstown's ceremony concluded with a parade through the resort town, winding up at the Memorial Centre, while Arrowtown began their events this morning with a march from Buckingham Street to the War Memorial.
We have no idea what it would be like to defend our country. Only the men and women who do it, they know it.
At the Arrowtown service, the town's former mayor Jim Bolt gave one of the main addresses on this year's Anzac Day theme, noting that while the Returned in Services Association is old, not every veteran the organisation supports is, reminding us that veterans aren't just in our past, but also in our present. In Central Otago, the South today.
It was a special Anzac Day for one pipe band member in the northern Southland town of Balfour after he was surprised with a celebration marking a milestone of service.
Mataura Kilty's pipe band member Paul Bruce has been playing bagpipes at the Balfour Anzac service for 50 years, but after Tuesday's service he was surprised with cake and a silver quake, a Scottish drinking vessel, to mark the occasion. Bruce started playing to commemorate the fallen soldiers when he was just 13, following in his dad's footsteps.
Oh, just my father started playing the bagpipes and I just sort of carried on with it.
Paul passed down the tradition to his son, who also plays the bagpipes, and this year a fourth generation was added to the team, with his great-nephew playing at the Anzac Day service for the first time. In Balfour, the South today.
Organisers are celebrating a successful Wild Dunedin Festival, which featured more than 120 events across 10 days. One of the final activities was designed for families who were encouraged to get creative among the trees at Chingford Park.
These strange symbols in the grass aren't an alien message. Instead, this twiggy tapestry was created by local children and families on Saturday as part of a creative exercise. The giant nature sculpture, called Art Play for Earth Day, was one of the highlights from a day out at Chingford Park as part of the Wild Dunedin Festival of Nature. Participants used autumnal leaves, twigs and various other items to create spokes, swirls and other patterns inside a series of little globes. Guidance was provided by local artists Janet Duwatt, Pamela Brown and Kerry Mackay. Once completed, the botanical ballet was left for nature to slowly blow away on its own. The Wild Dunedin Festival finished up on Sunday after 126 different activities across the week-long event. In Dunedin, the South today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube and the South Today NZ on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.